The Justice Department has finally released some of the highly anticipated Epstein files. More than 300,000 pages of documents related to the late convicted offender were made public today. They include photos, flight logs, grand jury testimony, and a lot of heavy redacted.
We've all seen the fall of a public figure before, but what's unfolding with Steve Harvey isn't just a stumble. It's a full-blown erasure happening in real time, with the kind of speed that suggests someone, somewhere, hit the panic button. 1 week ago, Harvey was still the affable king of daytime, the man who turned family advice into a brand and moralizing into a paycheck. Today, his social media accounts are scrubbed, his upcoming projects are frozen mid-production, and his team is in what insiders describe as total lockdown mode. This isn't damage control, it's a digital disappearance. And the reason? We're learning it's tied to something far bigger than a misplaced joke or a bad interview, something he was never supposed to let slip. Something buried in the files of Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, but we have a congressional act now to requiring the release, but they're going to say, you know
subject
what?
To
Tom
redaction.
Hanks, it's unfair that he was mentioned because he was eating Skittles.
Subject to redaction. Subject to redaction.
And we all know what that means. That's to protect.
That's why I'm saying you will never be satisfied with what's released.
The first sign that this wasn't business as usual came when Harvey's long-running talk show abruptly announced a hiatus with no return date. No farewell episode, no heartfelt goodbye, just a corporate statement about reassessing priorities. Then came the leaks. Not from tabloids, but from inside his own circle. Investors, we've heard, are furious. Not because of what Harvey did, but because of what he knows, and what he allegedly let out. The files in question aren't just damaging. They're the kind of documents that powerful people have spent years, and millions, keeping under lock and key. Harvey's name isn't just mentioned in them. According to sources familiar with the investigation, it's linked to flight logs, private communications, and timestamps that place him in Epstein's orbit during the most incriminating years. And now, those files are in the wrong hands. Let's be clear, this isn't about a single photo or a questionable association. The Justice Department's recent release of Epstein-related documents included a 1996 FBI complaint describing how Epstein stole private images of underage individuals and threatened to burn down a complainant's home if she spoke out. The name of the complainant was redacted, but legal experts have connected the details to Maria Farmer, one of Epstein's earliest accusers. What hasn't been redacted? The pattern. The dates. The way these records don't just implicate Epstein, they map out a network. And Harvey's name appears in that network not as a bystander, but as someone who, according to flight manifests from 2006, was present during periods when Epstein's operations were at their most active. There are photos, too, like the one from 2004 showing Harvey with Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's longtime associate, at an event where other high-profile figures were also documented. The context? That's what the investors are scrambling to suppress.
As we've seen dozens of new photos we haven't seen before of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with very high-profile people, celebrities, people like Mick Jagger and Michael Jackson, like you showed, also like British royalty and actors. All of that we sort of knew was happening. I want to highlight specifically two for the public interest, and that is President Clinton and President.
What makes this different from every other celebrity scandal is the reaction of the people who actually control Harvey's career. We're not talking about outraged fans or boycott campaigns. We're talking about backers who, until last week, were happy to profit off his family values persona. Now, those same backers are reportedly demanding emergency meetings, auditing his companies, and, according to two industry sources, exploring legal options to distance themselves before the next wave of files drops. Why the sudden urgency? Because Harvey isn't just a liability, he's a loose end. The files he's connected to don't just involve Epstein, they allegedly reference other influential figures, people who, unlike Harvey, still have the power to bury the story. And if Harvey's leaks are as extensive as insiders claim, those figures are now racing to contain the fallout before their own names surface.
So they in that generation. And I asked them what is it, and they said, Dad, you clickbait.
Wow.
He said, you clickbait. He said, you one of the most viral people in your age group out there. He said, Dad, every clip on Family Feud got you on it.
Yeah.
You clickbait. If they can take your face and put it on anything, you become clickbait. He said, and that's what it is, you know.
Here's where the hypocrisy cuts deepest. For years, Harvey built his empire on judging others. His advice segments, his relationship sermons, his entire public identity revolved around moral absolutes. What's right? What's wrong? How to live with integrity. Yet the timeline we're piecing together tells a different story. In 2004, he's photographed with Maxwell. In 2006, his name appears on flight logs during the height of Epstein's trafficking operation. In 2014, texts suggest ongoing contact. And all the while, he's on camera lecturing audiences about fidelity and respect. The cognitive dissonance isn't just staggering. It's the kind of betrayal that turns casual viewers into angry critics overnight. But the real question isn't about Harvey's past. It's about his present. Because the files he's tied to aren't just historical records. They're active legal landmines, and the people who own those mines are not known for their mercy.
On clicks and views, the universe does not differentiate. It just gives you clicks and views. So now, here they come the rest of them. And now you got clicks and views.
My question to that, though, is...
What's happening right now isn't a cancellation. It's a corporate execution. Harvey's investors aren't just cutting ties, they're erasing him. Projects are being shelved, partnerships dissolved, and his name is being scrubbed from promotional materials with a speed that suggests legal exposure, not just PR concerns. The whisper among industry insiders? This isn't about what Harvey did. It's about what he saw and who he might have been protecting. The files in question don't just document Epstein's activities. They allegedly include references to other powerful individuals, people who, unlike Harvey, still have the resources to make problems disappear. If Harvey's leaks are as comprehensive as some claim, then his downfall isn't just personal. It's a sacrifice, a necessary loss to keep bigger names out of the crosshairs. But here's the twist that should make everyone pause. Harvey didn't stumble into this. According to sources close to the situation, he leaked something. Not by accident, but deliberately. The question is why? Was it a miscalculation? A moment of conscience? Or was it something far more calculated? An attempt to negotiate his own safety by offering up others? The timing is suspicious. The files started surfacing just as Harvey's financial backers were reportedly pressuring him over unrelated legal matters, including lingering questions about his wife Marjorie's past associations with individuals tied to substance distribution networks in the 1990s. Coincidence? Or leverage? Because if Harvey had something to trade, something big enough to make powerful people nervous, then his sudden silence starts to look less like shame and more like strategy.
I'd say that Steve Harvey was in a perfect position to help me get cleansed. I wouldn't have to go through what I went through, but God's hand.
And then there's the matter of who actually released the files tying Harvey to Epstein. The Justice Department's rollout has been chaotic, with heavy redactions and delayed disclosures sparking bipartisan outrage. But the documents that have emerged, like the 2006 flight logs and the 2014 communications, paint a picture of Harvey as more than a peripheral figure. He's in the records during key moments, and the people who control those records are not the type to tolerate loose ends. So, was this a controlled burn? A way to neutralize Harvey before he could share more? Or is there someone inside his own circle who made sure these connections saw the light of day? Because if Harvey's downfall was orchestrated, the next question is simple: who benefits? The financial dominoes are already falling. Harvey's production company, East 112th Street Productions, has reportedly seen multiple projects put on indefinite hold, with networks citing contractual concerns as the reason. His endorsement deals, once a cornerstone of his income, are being quietly terminated, and his legal team, usually quick to issue denials, has gone radio silent. That's not the behavior of a man preparing to fight back. It's the behavior of someone who knows the fight is already over. The only question left is how far the collateral damage will spread. Because if Harvey's files implicate others, and all signs suggest they do, then his silence might be the only thing keeping those names out of the headlines. For now.
He took my Winton. Took my Winton from me. He turned my son against me.
But here's what we can't ignore. Harvey's past is littered with scandals that, at the time, seemed like isolated missteps. The 2015 Miss Universe debacle, where he crowned the wrong winner live on air. The 2017 meeting with Donald Trump that sparked backlash among his predominantly black audience. The 2019 comments about the Flint water crisis that many saw as tone-deaf and dismissive. Each time he weathered the storm, leaned into the "I'm just a flawed man" narrative, and moved on. But this isn't a gaffe. It's not a bad take. It's a pattern. One that, when laid alongside the Epstein files, starts to look like a blueprint. The man who preached accountability now finds himself at the center of the very kind of scandal he once condemned, and the people who once profited from his righteousness are the same ones now ensuring his silence.
And so she called me, and she just went off on me.
What happens next depends on who's pulling the strings. If Harvey's leaks were accidental, then his career is over, and the files will be buried under legal threats and non-disclosure agreements. But if this was deliberate, if he had something to gain, or someone to protect, or a deal to strike, then the real story isn't about Harvey at all. It's about the names still hidden in those files, the ones who are willing to destroy a man's livelihood to keep their own secrets safe. And if that's the case, then Steve Harvey isn't the villain of this story. He's the distraction, the fall guy, the man left holding the bag while the real players walk away untouched. The only question left is how long they'll let him stay silent, and what happens when he decides to talk.
I don't care. All the king horses and all the king men cannot stop me from putting this book.
The pattern was always there if you knew where to look. Steve Harvey doesn't just survive scandals, he makes them disappear. And the blueprint for his current crisis was written years ago, in courtrooms and custody battles most of us forgot. Let's start with a $60 million lawsuit from his second wife, Mary, who didn't just accuse him of infidelity. She alleged something far darker: soul destruction. That's the legal term she used, claiming Harvey's actions were so psychologically destructive they amounted to a systematic erasure of her identity. The case was thrown out on a technicality, but the details linger, like the fact that Mary claimed she was left with nothing while Harvey's empire grew, or that she was barred from seeing their son after the divorce. Sound familiar? Because that's the same playbook we're seeing now. Silence the accuser, control the narrative, and move on. Except this time, the accuser isn't an ex-wife. It's the Justice Department. And the files Harvey's tied to aren't just personal, they're criminal. Then there's the Miss Universe disaster of 2015, where Harvey crowned the wrong winner live on air. At the time, it was played off as a hilarious gaffe, the kind of thing that only made him more relatable. But now, it looks like a distraction. Because while the world was laughing at his on-stage blunder, Harvey was quietly settling another legal battle. This one involving his production company and allegations of financial mismanagement. Coincidence? Maybe. But when you stack it alongside the Trump meeting in 2017, where Harvey, a vocal critic of the then president, suddenly showed up at Mar-a-Lago for a photo op that left his own audience baffled, it starts to feel like a pattern. Harvey doesn't just weather storms, he redirects them. And the biggest storm of his career is the one he's in right now.
So you're not allowed, they don't want you to say nothing about what's really going on.
No, they want you to be quiet.
But here's where the story gets even messier, because Harvey's wife, Marjorie, isn't just a supporting player in this drama. She's a central figure with a past that's just as complicated as his. Let's talk about her first husband, Jim L. Townsend, a man the DEA once labeled a major figure in substance distribution networks. Townsend was sentenced to life in prison in the 90s, only to be mysteriously pardoned by President Obama in 2017. During their marriage, Marjorie was allegedly under investigation by both the FBI and DEA, though she was never charged. Then there's her second husband, Donald Woods, another man with ties to questionable financial dealings. Woods is the father of Marjorie's youngest daughter, Lori, and while there's no public record of charges against him, insiders claim his name has surfaced in past investigations into money laundering operations. So when we ask how Steve Harvey, a man who built his brand on wholesome family values, ends up married to a woman with this kind of history, the answer might not be love. It might be leverage. Because if Marjorie's past is as checkered as records suggest, then her marriage to Harvey starts to look less like a fairy tale and more like a transaction. Was she a connection he needed? A liability he had to control? Or was she already part of the network, one that included powerful men with even more to hide? Remember, Harvey's downfall isn't just about Epstein. It's about the files he allegedly leaked, files that don't just implicate him, but others who are still very much in the game. And if Marjorie's history is any indication, the Harveys might know more about those connections than they've ever let on. Because when you're married to someone who's been investigated for ties to substance trafficking and you end up in Epstein's orbit, it's not just bad luck, it's a pattern. And patterns like that don't happen by accident. Now let's talk about the triangle that connects Harvey, Epstein, and Donald Trump, because this isn't just a scandal, it's a power play. In 2019, emails surfaced where Epstein claimed Trump knew about the girls, a reference to the underage individuals allegedly involved in Epstein's operations. Then there's the infamous birthday book, a scrapbook given to Epstein on his 50th birthday, filled with messages from high-profile figures. Trump's entry was a sketch of a woman's torso with a note reading, "We have certain things in common, Jeffrey." Harvey's name isn't in that book, at least not in the pages that have been made public. But the question isn't whether he signed it, it's whether he saw it. Because if Harvey was in Epstein's inner circle, he would have known about that book. He would have known about the messages. And he would have known that those messages weren't just friendly notes. They were proof.
Yes. There's too much circumstantial evidence that leads me to believe that it was an assassination. You know, I know a lot of people think that he committed. A lot of very smart people that I know think he committed. I'm like, there's too many convenient things. The cut wires, the security cameras rather not working. They weren't cut, right? They just stopped. They didn't function. Security cameras didn't function. The fact that he had shared a cell with this giant former cop.
So when Harvey suddenly showed up at Mar-a-Lago in 2017, right as the Epstein scandal was heating up, was he there as a guest or was he there as a messenger? Because let's not forget, Epstein's operations didn't just involve private encounters. They involved blackmail. They involved leverage. And if Harvey was part of that world, then his sudden appearance at Trump's resort starts to look like a move in a much bigger game. Was he delivering a warning, negotiating protection? Or was he simply reminding Trump that they both had something to lose? The timing is too perfect to ignore. Epstein's name was already in the headlines. Trump's ties to him were under scrutiny. And Harvey? He was the one man who could walk into both worlds, the respectable face of daytime television and the shadowy network of Epstein's associates. If that's not a setup for a fall, then what is?
It's layers upon layers. It's those Russian nesting dolls, and you open it, and there's another one in there, and you open, there's another one in there.
Corruptions at all time, bro. The Epstein files.
I heard there's no files. I heard it's a hoax. And then all of a sudden, he's going to release the files. Well, I thought there was no files.
Man.
He wants an investigation now.
But the real smoking gun isn't in the emails or the flight logs. It's in that birthday book. Because while the world was focused on Trump's sketch, they missed the bigger picture. That book wasn't just a keepsake. It was a ledger, a record of who was in, who was out, and who was willing to play the game. And Harvey's absence from its pages might be the most telling detail of all. Because if he wasn't in the book, it doesn't mean he wasn't involved. It means he was smart enough not to leave his name in it. But the files he's tied to now? Those aren't just Epstein's secrets. They're his own. And if the birthday book was the playbook, then the files Harvey leaked are the receipts. What's happening to Harvey isn't just a cancellation. It's a warning. The same system that protected Epstein for years is still in place. And it's not just powerful men who keep it running. It's the wives, the associates, the people who know where the bodies are buried and when to stay silent. Marjorie's past isn't just a footnote. It's part of the machine. And if Harvey's files implicate others, then his downfall isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning. Because the people who erased him are still out there, and they're not done. So here's the question we have to ask. If Steve Harvey could fall this fast, this hard, this completely, what does that say about the people who are still standing? The ones whose names haven't been leaked yet? The ones who are still laughing on camera? Still giving interviews? Still pretending none of this touches them? Because the files aren't just about Epstein. They're about an entire system of protection, one that's been cracking for years. And if Harvey was the first domino, who's next? We'll be watching. And trust us, you should be too. Because in a world where men like Epstein could operate for decades, where files get redacted and scandals get buried, the only thing more dangerous than the truth is the person who's brave enough to tell it. So tell us, who do you think is hiding in those files? Drop your theories in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe. Because this story is far from over, and the next chapter might just change everything. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and above all, stay awake. Because the moment you look away is the moment they want you to.